So hi everyone. So today we're going to talk to you about listening to customer and how you can use AI to collect customer feedback from different sources online and use that to improve customer experience. So talking to you today, we're going to have so myself, Jeremie, Rondeau. I'm going to introduce myself first, and then I will let my colleagues introduce themselves. So I'm a managing director in the New York office of SIA Partners. I've been with SIA for the past 9 years, working on different digital transformation projects and data science projects for the past 9 years. And I'm now leading the data science team here in the US. And I pass it on to Paul.
Thank you, Jeremie. So, hello everybody, I'm Paul. I'm a manager within the data science business unit in SIA Partners, so in France. I'm based in Paris, and I'm notably in charge of the life science and healthcare activities in France for the data science team.
And hi everybody. I'm Aurélien. So I'm working in the Paris office as a data science consultant as well. And right now I'm in charge of deep review products that will be just shown later on as a product owner.
Okay. Next slide. So just to give you a brief introduction about SIA Partners, we are a management consulting company. And we are very focused on data science. So we have 5 AI centers around the world. We develop our own solutions, and we will show you one of these solutions. And we provide consulting services in data science to all our clients around the world. Next slide. So today in the agenda, so we're going to talk first about a use case of listening to customers in the healthcare sector and show you how hospitals, for example, can leverage customer feedback collected online to improve customer satisfaction or patient satisfaction. We'll talk about what are the challenges when trying to implement this approach. We'll show you what was our approach and the solution that we built to tackle this problem. And then we'll give you a quick demonstration of our solution. And finally, we'll summarize the key benefits and results that we found on this specific use case around healthcare. And then we'll open up on what are the other sectors where we could use, where we can use, or we've been using a similar approach and a similar solution. All right. So now I pass it on to Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremie. So just before we jump into the concrete solution, we would just like to introduce the context. So today, the customer reviews are a super valuable source of information, and we'll just take a few figures to illustrate it. So 64% of consumers say they are likely to check reviews on Google before visiting a business location. 79% of consumers say they trust the reviews they read online as much as personal recommendations, and 50% of increase in the number of online reviews interactions compared to pre-pandemic levels. So customer reviews are a super source of information, and the hospital sector need patient sentiment analysis because first, there is a high competition in the healthcare industry. So the level of competitiveness is extremely hard. The sector of the hospitals is really driven by trying to provide at least the best level of services to our client. So it's super important, and that leads to my third point. It's super important to understand the customer's needs and to gather relevant feedback. And finally, there is also a need of real-time data-driven insights because while you are part of the healthcare sector and of the hospital, you really need to be close to the reality to act consequently and to provide finally the best services. However, today, to use this source of information is not that easy because we have different challenges to overcome. First, the number of data sources is very high, and we have lots of complex data sources. We have different websites, such as Google, such as ZocDoc, such as many websites and many sources of information. It's very difficult also due to technological constraints to get real-time insights and a continuous analysis. And finally, all of this source of information is unstructured. And so we decided to make a project to answer these 3 key points. And so we build a solution in order to do automatical patient reviews gathering from several data sources, and Aurélien in the next part will present it to you. Our technology enabled us to do real-time and real-time tracking on the patient reviews. And finally, last but not least, we also use natural language processing, sentiment analysis, but also natural language understanding methodologies in order to structure the data which is present in the different reviews, to structure it and to use it more easily. And so, to give you a concrete feedback on what we've done, I let the floor to Aurélien.
Cool. So now that we have presented what the difficulties and what the changes are in these subjects, we talked about what we developed, so deep review tools, and what it is based off. So first of all, it's based on different technologies in order to tackle those changes. First, we have the data sourcing and integration that allows us to connect to different solutions, to connect to the web, to connect also to your own desktop, where you can just simply upload your own files, for example, and to just use deep review as a centralized database. So all of those reviews that we talked about that are gathered online and that you don't own is just centralized into one tool. Then we have the web scraping part, which allows us to have some sources that we have developed and that we have transferred into some web scraping algorithm in order to gather the data automatically and to be able to update all the data in real time. Once we have all of those textual data that are the core of the tool, we are able to extract values from them, from 2 different parts. First, the sentiment analysis that allows us to have an estimation of the positivity of a review, if the review shows negative aspects, positive aspects, and to go deeper into the analysis. So we are able to detect different parts of the review as different sub-sentences, and to detect the positivity of each of those parts. Then we have the topic detection, which allows us to tag one of those sub-sentences if in different topics that we have settled into the tool. And that allows us to just gather all the reviews that are claimed by this algorithm in the different topics that we talked about. I will just show you later what is completely what I'm talking about. And finally, we have an automated reporting that allows us to give high analysis on the different results from those algorithms in the form of different documents, could be some PowerPoint, stuff like that, that allows clients and users to have frequently reports at their disposal. Once we have all of this technology used, we are able to display the data and the analysis into all different dashboards. So first of all, we have the personal dashboard that gather all the data that is concerned to the company that is using the solution. So for example, if I'm a healthcare client in an hospital, all of my data in this dashboard right now. Then we have an interactive location. When the data are geolocated, we are able to gather all of the metadata that we have about them. So maybe the location of the agency. We have also different aspects like the dates, publication dates, stuff like that. That allows us to give some cross analysis around both the analysis of the topic and the different metadata that we have. We have a customizable benchmark that allows us to just data to our competitors, for example, but also our own data. Like if I want to confront one part of my network against another part of my network. Everything is possible in this dashboard, and the user is able to set up his own benchmark thanks to all the data gathered into the project. We have finally, we have the dynamic insights that allows us to go deeper into the analysis about different topics. I will just show you later this part. We have the dashboard that gather all the data that are all exportable. So it allows us the user to be able to extract the data and use them into other systems, to gather them into their own analysis system to make new analysis, for example. And finally, we have customizable project settings that allows the users to, for example, define new topics, to refine some already existing topics, and to go further into the analysis. So what is our approach? First of all, we gather all the data from the net, from the different sources that we have, and collect every textual data that we can. It's the core of the tool, obviously, and the data could be clean or not, and some noises could be into them. So once we gather them, we just clean them. What I mean by cleaning the data is could be from two different types. It could be, for example, a data that is containing a lot of stop words not very useful. So we just clean the stop words before to analyze the data. But it could also mean to remove, for example, some reviews that are not very, I would say, meaningful for the client. For example, very good, it's very good, or I'm fine, stuff like that is not very useful. It doesn't give you much, but some statistics about the positivity. Then we process all of those data that are cleaned through different algorithms. So first of all, we have the natural language processing, which is the part where we just use satisfaction analysis to all of our reviews. Once we have processed with this satisfaction analysis that is made thanks to different AI models based on different last use techniques, it's mainly about embedding of our different words. We can have two different models, actually. We have a French model and an English model. And that allows us to work around every different language since we are able to translate the data. Once we have used those models, we are able to gather some significant information on the positivity of the data, so what we call the satisfaction rate. Then we just use the natural language understanding, that is the topic detection part. We have the data, we have the positivity of the data, but I want to analyze what is the positivity of a topic in particular. So we use different models, which is mainly, once again, based on the embedding and the distance between different keywords that we define into one topic. I will just show it to you later. And it allows us to tag a review into one topic and then be able to extract from all of these different algorithms. We're able to do cross-analysis that allows us to extract values. So let's just take a moment to explain what it does quickly to a review. So if I just use this example, the doctors, nurses, social workers, and all of the staff here are very caring, very responsible. Thank you to all of them. However, the radiology and imaging department is not in great condition and the service is way too slow. I will proceed this review by removing all of the stop words. It just keeps doctors, nurses, social workers, staff, and stuff like that. Once we have proceeded with that, we are able to detect, to separate the sentence into different subsentences. We have 3 different subsentences here. And on all of those subsentences, we try to match our different keywords to all of the keywords that are present right now. So for example, in the first subsentences, we're able to extract doctor, nurses, workers, staff, which is based on the staff thematic. And in the second part, it's much more closer to the service thematic. In parallel of this analysis, we are able to detect the sentiment analysis of those subsentences. So the first subsentences is quite positive, but the second part, the service, is quite negative. Everything at the end of these processes allows us to tag these reviews as part of 2 different themes, so themes, staff and services, and to detect the staff as positive and the service as negative. So let's take a quick dive into a demo. I will just show you my screen. So here is the results of the demo that we have made around the hospitals near New York. So let's just talk about the parameters of the demo. It's about all the data of different hospitals in the New York States from 2010 to 2022. It's based on the Google Map reviews, and it's about 52 different hospitals. We have defined 5 different topics, so services, staff, processes, wait time, and others. If I just go into the topics, I will be able to just highlight what I meant by defining the keywords. For each topic, we are able to define some keywords that allows us to detect the different reviews. So each keyword is a vector that we use in order to tag different other words into the reviews. We try to have the closer proximity, semantical proximity of the defined keywords and the different words. It gives us a proximity of meaning between a topic and the review. And if the proximity is close enough, we tag the review as part of this topic. And so if I go into the dashboard, what does it mean concretely? If I go into the data first, I will just be able to give you some example. For example, we have some different keywords, reviews here. All of the reviews into the tool right now is on this screen. So if I just go, for example, to, I don't know, I could just talk about, yes, all of this is about other, but here we have an example with the staff. So it's quite obvious because staff is quite represented here. We're about to detect that the review is talking about staffing stuff, and it's quite negative. The example is not really clear to highlight what I mean by we're about to separate the grade. I will just show you later in different screen, but you're about to detect that the review is negative, and this part where we talk about the staff is really negative. So it's a D mark. If I go into my dashboard, so if I go into the data of all of those hospitals, I'm able to have a quick understanding on what is the reputation of those hospitals. First of all, I have a gathering of how many reviews as part of this demo. So I'm working around 10,000 reviews with comments. And then I'm able to go further into the analysis. I just divide the reviews in 5 different segments, from E to A, E being the most negative comments, and A is the most positive. C is quite neutral. So once I'm able to divide those segments, I'm able to detect which topic is the most representative into this segment. So staff is a huge subject in this demo, so it's not very useful, but it could just highlight some topics that have been very represented into negative parts, and that just give you a quick insight on what could be an issue into your services. So once I've seen these different segments, I'm able to work around the topics. We have all the topics represented based on their occurrence. And I'm able to detect, for example, for a topic, which keyword is the most representative. It gives me a quick feedback on what could be the issue. We have the positive, negative distribution of these topics. And for each part, the negative part and the positive part, which keyword is the most represented. If I just go into some negative parts, I could just focus on, for example, topics that are quite problematic for hospitals. And I could just have a quick understanding on what could be the problem. And for example, if I just go to a deep dive, we have the same comments that we have seen earlier on. But here we are talking about different things. So about different services and about the different staff parts here were represented by a team, for example, which is really close to the meaning of physicians, stuff like that, which talk about jobs. So with these different screens, I'm able to have a quick understanding on what is the issue, what could it be, and to just dive into those topics. If I want to go further, for example, I've just highlighted an issue. I want to just have a vision on the evolution of this issue. I could just filter on it and have this time evolution part, which allows me to have the evolution of the satisfaction rate through the month. For example, if I just, I don't know, decide to take an action on this issue in the period of November, for example, I would like to see a positive evolution of this issue. So it could be a way to monitor this or my own action thanks to the e-reputation. We have the same based on different segments that gives us deep dive feedback. And finally, we have something that is quite useful for in order to avoid some scandals. For example, we have a huge scandal in France around the healthcare system right now. And this kind of scandals could be highlighted through the reputation. We have here the last trends that highlights the different KPI. Here we have the frequency of the reviews. We have the satisfaction rate and we have the frequency variation. If, for example, we have a huge peak of volume of reviews on a specific topic during this month, we would have an highlight there of it because it would just skyrocket against the previous month. We could just go then into the satisfaction rate to try to catch if it's a good a bad buzz or a good buzz. And if it's a bad buzz, we would like to have a quick understanding on what is going on in order to adapt our communication, to adapt our services to just handle this issue, for example. So here is all the data that is based on all the analysis based on your own data. But we could go a little bit deeper into the analysis. I have said that we have different hospitals, so I could just try to have different analysis over those hospitals. So it would be thanks to this benchmark. Here I'm able to settle whatever I want as a benchmark. Here I'm just representing, for example, comparing Montefiore Health against other hospitals as a number of reviews based on the month. So I'm able to have the evolution of the number of reviews for those hospitals. I have the same about the satisfaction rate, which highlights that Montefiore, for example, is doing great against its competitors. And we could have the ranking as well, where, for example, I'm able to rank every different hospitals based on these topics. Finally, we have a quick ranking on the different location, the different hospitals, and we can just try to show off which is performing the best, which is performing the worst. We have a map that allows us to have a quick insight on how my network is doing against competitors. For example, here I'm just selecting all the hospitals in the US parts and try to highlight it on the map. So yes, sorry, it's a little bit, take a little bit of time. And I'm able to have everything on the map that allows me to just connect to every different hospitals, have highlights of their own reviews, and could just show that in this perimeter, this hospital could be a huge competitor to other hospitals in the area, for example. And finally, the data that are all exportable. So through all of these tools, I'm able to have a quick understanding, to go deeper into the analysis, and to always move on with new analysis, with new challenges on tools that gather all the data. So that was the demo of Deep Review. But just to highlight what I was talking about that we could do with Deep Review, we have first the situational analysis that allows me to detect what is positive, what is negative on my reputation with a quick understanding. We have an action plan definition that could be empowered thanks to the different benchmark. I would like to improve my, the staffing issue of my hospitals. I just make action about it and I monitor how it evolves in times. And we have the impact analysis of those different action plans, where I could just show off how it evolves in times against different competitors, different locations. I will just give the word back to Jeremie.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Aurélien. So, I mean, this was the presentation on the healthcare use case. Obviously, we've used a similar approach with in other industries. It can be applied to any industry where you have different point of sales. So, for example, we did that with a bank, which was trying to assess what was the performance and the customer satisfaction in different agencies located in a specific area. And so you can really apply that same methodology and the same approach across many different industries and sectors. And it allows you to
compare yourself to your competitors and to monitor over time what is your customer satisfaction, what is the impact of some of the actions you're taking, and make sure you keep improving in terms of customer satisfaction. I want to keep sometimes, yes, for questions. So maybe, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, I think, and I will let also Aurélien and Paul complete. So I think, I don't think AI fails as a technology. I think it's really a problem of collecting the data and having access to the right data to feed the different AI models. And specifically here, we see that it's definitely one of the biggest challenge is to find the right data sources and to extract the information, because then the interpretation is we have models in place that can do that. So definitely sourcing the data is the main challenge in this case. Yeah.
Maybe Jeremie, if you want us to give some feedbacks, we would need some resume because we can't hear the question.
You can't hear the questions. Okay. Yeah. I'll tell the question. Yeah. Go ahead. Yes. Yes, good question. So, Aurélien, it's a question around the fake reviews and how we can detect fake reviews. And so it's a bit of a different approach than the NLP. It's more in the cleaning the data part, where how do we find the relevant reviews? How do we exclude the ones that are less relevant and the ones that are fake? And there are different approach for that, but maybe I'll let Aurélien talk about this. Yeah.
So we've worked already about it for a French institution that is looking for the competition in the French sector. So, for example, it's really different from just extracting data from the reviews because you need a lot of information on the, I would say, system of the review itself. For example, if you want to detect someone using a fake account to give a fake feedback, well, if the feedback is just it's excellent, the natural language understanding, won't help you in this case because it just tells you that yes, it's a positive something. It could be anyone that could say that. But what you are looking for in this context is much more on the user itself. If the user is just giving the same kind of review for every different part of its review pool, if he gives, for example, 2 reviews at the same time, stuff like that, you could just analyze it as a fake review. But you would much more focus on the user than on the review itself.
So it's really focused on identifying which accounts are giving the fake reviews, and it's more account by account that you can identify that by looking at the reviews that each account is leaving. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So the question is about topic modeling. And which approach did we use and how accurate was it? I don't know if Paul or Aurélien, you want to give a bit more details on that?
Yes, I could do. We are currently using some fast text models, and we are trying to just highlight the distance between all of our keywords and the words themselves. We have two different approaches that we use at the similar time. So we try to have I would say, global comparison of all the keywords against the global sub-sentences itself. And we have a confrontation of each keyword against each word of the subsentence. It allows us to use more semantic parts, if we have proximity into the keywords, we are able to detect it. For example, we set up doctors, physicians, stuff like that, which is semantically really close. We could just detect surgeon, for example, where if we use some rules or stuff like that, we wouldn't be able to detect that. But right now into the tool, it's based on really generic models, not unsupervised model. So the results are, I would say, sufficiently efficient for global analysis. But if you want to use this tool for specific clients that have specific vocabulary, stuff like that, you will need to train the model for those reviews themselves. So we are able to connect to supervised methods, but right now into the tool, we have unsupervised algorithm.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Yes. So you mean where we use NLP to identify customer satisfaction outside of online reviews or surveys? Yes. So I don't know. Again, I'm going to turn to Aurélien or Paul, but can you give some example of other data sources that we've used in that context beyond?
So what do you mean beyond online reviews?
So, yes, other than online reviews or yeah.
Basically, we are connecting a lot of clients are asking us to connect to their CRM in order to collect all the feedbacks, all the different feedbacks that they can gather. Since the preview is using a lot of textual data, we are obviously needing textual feedback. So, for example, it's not using, I don't know, if you try to work around the mobile application, you could use some parameters like number of the retention rates, the number of time spent on the application, stuff like that. It's not our approach. The approach is to have a tool that is able to just work around textual data. So it's mainly focused on surveys, on online reviews and stuff like that. But we're able to gather really different kind of reviews, and that's the part that is interesting, I think. We can have, for example, social networks, which is a kind of review that is in the instant, people are just giving their instant feedback. We can have, for example, more reviews around Glassdoor, so those kind of sources, where it's based on, I would say, HR approach. We could have, for example, we use it for mobile applications. So we just scrap reviews of Play Store, Apple Store, stuff like that. So we have different kind of sources that have different way of expressing themselves, but it's mainly based on the online reviews.
Okay. Yes. Sorry, I didn't get the last part of your question. Okay, so you mean from a HR standpoint, or? Okay. You mean when it's a kind of mandatory survey and people have to answer? And so I think it goes, you know, in the data cleaning part, we kind of touched on that, but we try to identify what are the relevant responses that we get, and you know, as Aurélien mentioned, some of them are not very relevant. They are very short. They are not focused on any particular topic. It's just a very broad comment that doesn't have a lot of value. So we try to filter those out. If we are not able to identify a particular topic or a particular sentiment within the review, then you know those wouldn't have a lot of value for this. So we try to filter this kind of reviews out. I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah. Yes. Like what kind of attacks? Adversarial attacks. Okay. Yeah, and maybe I'll let Aurélien answer that. So your question is, do we take any approach? Okay, so do we take any measures to make NLP models robust to adversarial attacks? Not sure if
what
can hear the question. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you mean by adversarial attack?
So can you give us an example of adversarial attack, or yeah? Okay.
Oh.
No, yeah, I understand. So like a slight changes in the words could impact the analysis and make it sound negative instead of positive or something like that. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like yeah. Sorry, I don't have this word in my mind, but yeah, if you, I would say that we are not just concerned about it. I think because the analysis is not displayed to the user itself, so you won't be able to have feedbacks about it. And yes, some keywords are, for example, we have some issues with irony. For example, if someone is just telling great services, 3 exclamation mark, it's difficult to detect that it's irony. And the model itself, we just give some positive feedback about it. So we already have issues in detecting those kind of things. And the user itself, I would say that has no interest into faking this sentiment, because his own goal is to be is that the company is taking action against what he claims. So we have not worked around this kind of thing. But in NLP, in a larger area, yes, there are a lot of ways to just counter, I would say, a model. Irony is like one of the best way. and it's really, really hard to detect.
Okay, thank you, Aurélien. Are there any last questions? No? All right. All right, so thank you very much for attending this session, and yeah, feel free to visit our booth if you have any more questions.
All right, so lunch is gonna be for an hour, and then after the next work session should be at 1:10. Hope you have a nice afternoon.
Thank you.